Okay, this is 4.7, order of operations with fractions, a couple more example exercises. So we first looked at powers, and so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple things. Maybe we have a negative 2/5 to the third power. Well, that's just going to do negative 2 over 5 times a negative 2 over 5 times a negative 2 over 5. And so we have an odd number, so we know our final answer is negative. Now 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 more is 8, so we'll have a negative 8 over. Now 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 more is going to be 125. And so that would be our power of 2/5 raised to the power 3. Maybe we had a simpler one. Maybe we had a negative 1 over 7, and we raised it to, I don't know, the fourth power. All right, so that's going to be a negative 1 over 7 times a negative 1 over 7 times a negative 1 over 7 times a negative 1 over 7. And so we have an even number, so we know our answer is even. And 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And now we have 7 times 7 is 49. So what we have is 49 times 49. And so that's going to be 81. That's going to be 36 plus 8. 36 plus 8 is going to be 44. And then that's going to be another 36. And that's going to be 16. And that's going to be 19. So it's going to be 1, 0. That's going to be a 4. That's going to be 2, 4, 0, 1. And so that would be our answer there. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to try some more of the ones where we had to do plugging in and doing order of operations. So maybe we have 3 times a negative 1 over 3 raised to the power 2 minus 2 times negative 1 over 3. And we want to simplify that. Well, order of operations says we take care of the powers first. So we're going to have to take a negative 1 over 3 times a negative 1 over 3. Well, negative times negative is positive. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9. So that then becomes 3 times 1 over 9. And then what we have now is, now it's just a product. So we can go ahead and take that product. And it's a negative times a negative. So we know it's going to become positive. And then 2, if we think about that, that's really 2 over 1. So we have 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. And so that just becomes 2/3. Now, when we take 3 times 1 over 9, that's really 3 over 1. So 3 will go in here once. 3 will go in here 3 times. So that now becomes 1 over 3 plus 2 over 3. Well, guess what? 2 plus 1 is 3. So it becomes 3 over 3. And that's just 1. So that one turns out to be kind of a nice answer from something where you have fractions, negatives, all kinds of other stuff. So again, just following order of operations, we have the exponent we have to take care of first, and then we have, a multiplication here, then we have the multiplication here, then we do our addition, and then we just reduce it down to the lowest terms. Okay, so let's do another one similar to that, but let's say we have to plug in values. So let's say we have a to the third minus b to the third divided by a minus b. Now let's let a equal a negative 1/2. Let's say b equals 1/3. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to plug in a and b in places here. So what we'll have is negative 1/2 cubed minus 1/3 cubed, all in parentheses, divided by, now we have a negative 1/2 minus 1/3. Now, order of operations says we'll do those first. So we're going to take a negative 1/2 times a negative 1/2 times a negative 1/2. Well, that's going to end up being a negative, and it's going to be 1 over 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 more is 8. So this first one is going to be a negative 1 over 8. And then we have minus. Now we have 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3. So that's all 1. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 more, that's 27. So now it's over 1 over 27 divided by, and now here we have just a subtraction. So what we have to do is we have to find the LCD. So LCD here looks to be like 6. So we're going to have a negative 1/2 times 3 over 3 minus 1 over 3 times 2 over 2. Okay. So we're kind of working at this different ways. And now at this point, we have another fractions we're adding together. So we have to get the common denominator. Well, that's 2 times 2 times 2. And this is 3 times 3 times 3. So that means we're going to have an LCD on the first one of 8 times 27, which happens to be, I don't know, so 27 times 8. So that's going to be 56. That's going to be 16, so that's going to be 21. So we're going to have to get a common denominator of 216. So that's going to be a minus 1 over 8 times 27 over 27 minus, and now we have a 1 over 27 times 8 over 8. And that's all divided by, well, now we've simplified this a little bit, so it's going to be a minus 3 over 6 minus 2 over 6. So that's working out nicely. And now we can simplify this. This is going to be a minus 27 over 216 minus 8 over 216 divided by, well, now we've got common denominator, so minus 3 minus 2 is going to be minus 5 over 6. Now we can simplify this one. We have a minus 27 minus 8 more, so that's going to be a minus, and it's going to be a 35 over 216 divided by, and we have a minus 5 over 6. Okay. Now what do we know about dividing fractions? Well, we're going to keep the first one the same, and we're going to change to multiply by the reciprocal of the second one. And so now we have that. All right, so now what can we do? Well, a minus times a minus, that becomes plus. Now 6 will go into 216 because we have multiples there. So if we take 216 divided by 6, that's going to be 3, that's going to be 18, that's going to be 3, 6, that's going to be 6. So 6 will go in here once, it'll go in here 36 times. And now, oh, did I write something wrong here? That's not a 36 there, that's a 35. So I just noticed that. So let's erase, that's not a 6. So this is a 5, because I noticed it was 5. And so we can also reduce, because 5 will go in here once, 5 will go in here 7 times. So now we have 7 times 1, which is 7. 36 times 1, which is 36. And that appears to be in reduced form as much as we can. And so starting with our expression here with a's and b's, we plugged in a, we plugged in b, and we come down and we get our final answer of 7 over 36. Okay. All right, so let's do another one. We also did simplifying of complex fractions. We did it 2 ways. So the first one we'll do how we learned the first way, and then we'll do the second one the second way. So let's say we have 2 over 3 plus 1 over 5, and that's divided by 4 over 5 minus 1 over 2. Okay. Well, we're going to work with the numerator first and simplify it. Then we're going to work with the denominator and simplify it. So on the numerator, the LCD is 15. So 2 over 3 times 5 over 5 plus 1 over 5 times 3 over 3. Because here our LCD is 3 times 5, which is 15. So that means I have to multiply this by 5. And so 5 over 5. And this one we have to multiply by 3, so 3 over 3. Now the denominator, we have LCD of the denominator is going to be 2 times 5, which is 10. So we'll have 4 over 5 times 2 over 2 minus 1 over 2 times 5 over 5. So now if we simplify that, we have a 2 times 5, that's 10 over 15, plus, now we have 3 times 1, so that's 3 over 15, divided by, here we have 2 times 4, which is 8 over 10, minus 5 times 1, which is 5 over 10. Now a 10 15ths plus 3 15ths, that's 13 over 15. And here we have 8 minus 5, so that's going to be a 3 over 10. Now we have one fraction divided by the other one. So what I'm going to do is come down here and say, well, that's 13 over 15 divided by 3 over 10. So now I can keep the first fraction the same, multiply by the reciprocal of the other fraction. And so now I can say, well, 5 will go into 10 twice. 5 will go into 15 3 times. That can't be reduced, that can't be reduced. So now if I just multiply 13 times 2, that's 26. 3 times 3 is 9. And so that would be my answer to this. And since we didn't have mixed numbers to start with, I think probably most likely the improper fraction would work here. If they said to go ahead and do the mixed number, then you'd have to divide it. So that would be times 2, so that would be 18, and that would be 8 after you subtracted them. So that's also equal to 2 and 8 ninths. Okay. So depending on, again, if they want mixed fractions or if they want the improper fraction, either one of those would work. All right, so the next one, what we did was we had to find LCD1, we had to find a LCD2, and then from those two LCDs, we had to find a common LCD. So let's do the following question. Let's say we have, where's my mouse? There we go. Let's say we have a minus 1/2 minus 4 over 7, and then that's all divided by, and let's say we have a minus 5 over 7 plus 1 over 6. Okay. So LCD1 and down here is LCD2. We'll have to find those. So here, 2 and 7, well, that's just going to give us 2 times 7, which is 14. Down here, well, 6 is 2 and 3, so it's going to be 2 times 3 times 7. So that's going to be 6 times 7, which is 42. So now we have to find the LCD between those two, because that's the LCD of numerator, LCD of the denominator. Well, it's going to be basically, we have 1, 2, so LCD is going to be 2. We have 1, 3, and we just have 1, 7. So it looks like our LCD overall is just going to be 42. So now what we do is we multiply basically by 1, which is going to be taking 42 times the numerator, minus 1/2 minus 4/7 over 42 times the denominator, minus 5/7 plus 1/6. And now we just distribute. So we multiply that, we multiply that. And so when we do that, we'll have 42 times a negative 1/2 minus 42 times 4/7. Then in the denominator, we'll have 42 times negative 5 over 7, and then plus 42 times 1 over 6. And so what can we do? Well, here we can cancel. 2 will go in here once, 2 will go in here 21 times. Here, 7 go in here once, and go in here 6 times. And that's the same thing. Here 1 and 6. Now here, 6 will go in here once, and it'll go in here 7. So now we multiply 21 times negative 1, so it's going to be a negative 21. Then we have minus 6 times 4, so it's going to be minus 24. Here we have 6 times a minus 5, so it's a minus 30. And 7 times 1 is going to be plus 7. All right, so a minus 21 minus 24, that's going to be a minus 45. And a minus 30 plus 7 is going to be minus 23. Well, what can we do there? Well, a minus divided by a minus is going to be a positive. 45 divided by 23 is going to be just 45 over 23. We can't reduce it as the improper fraction. And so that would be our improper fraction. If they said they wanted to have a mixed number, then we'd have to say, okay, well, 23 goes into 45. We'll just go one time here. Let's get rid of that and make it prettier. So that's, so that we have, goes in once, that's 23. So it's a 2 and a 2. So that's equal to 1 and 22 over 23. So if they want the mixed number, we have that. If an improper fraction works, we'll have that one. All right, so that was simplifying a complex fraction. The second way, the alternative way, where we find the two different LCDs, and then after that we find the common LCD and multiply numerator and denominator by it, and then work our way down. And then the last thing was basically just the trapezoids. And so let's say we have the following trapezoid. Let's say we have, this was 3 1/2 meters. This was 5 and I don't know, 2/5 meters. And let's say our height was, looks like about maybe 3 meters. Okay. So remember, our formula is area is equal to 1/2 height and then base 1 plus base 2. Okay, so now we just have to plug in what we know. So area is equal to 1/2. Well, height was 3. Base 1 is 5 2/5. Plus, this was 3 1/2. Now, last time we went ahead and added them, whole number, mix the fraction and fraction. But this time, since we know at the end we had to convert it back to the improper fraction, let's do improper fractions. So that's going to be, well, if we multiply that, that's 3/2. That way we don't have to write it twice. And this is 5 times 5 is 25, 26, 27/5. Plus here, that's 6, and that's 7/2. Now we need to simplify here and add by getting the common denominator. Well, the LCD between those two is equal to 10. So we're going to have 3/2 times 27 over 5 times 2 over 2 plus 7 over 2 times 5 over 5. And so this is going to be 3 over 2 times, now 27 times 2 is going to give us 54 over 10 plus 7 times 5 is 35 over 10. And so that's going to give us a 3/2 times. So now we have 54 plus 35, so it's going to be 89 over 10. And when we multiply this out, we're going to have 89 times 3. Oops. Now, the only reason why I'm multiplying is because I don't see anything that cancels here, so that's why we have to multiply. And so we'll have 89 times 3. So 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 8 is 24, 25, 26, so that's 267. All over 2 times 10 is 20. Now we have to do that division, because what we could say is the area is equal to 267 over 10 meters squared, or now if we take 20 into 267, that's going to be 1, that's 20, subtract, that's going to be a 6, bring down our 7, that's going to be a 3, so that's going to be 60, that's going to be a 7, so that's going to give us 7 over 20, or it's going to be 13 7/20 meters squared. So if improper fractions are fine, that would work. If not, here is our mixed number. Okay, so those are some extra examples. Hopefully that will help.